And Raimundo, this is I know it's on Facebook. And what's the link on Facebook?
It's Community Advisors RSR, and
Okay.
it's on Facebook. I can share it with you throughout the Zoom chat.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Good evening, everyone. My name is Raimundo Reyes, and I am the host for Community Advisors RSR. Co-host for the show, Maria Segari, la contadora latina, y Eduardo Rodríguez from LULAC, District 18. And today, our guest of honor, the Honorable Judge Rodríguez from the Harris County Criminal Court at Law, number 13. Judge, bienvenido, welcome.
Hola, bienvenido. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yo soy María Segari, la contadora latina de Houston Tax Professionals. We meet again, and we have really, really good information. Many clients and friends have asked different questions, and today we're going to get those answers for you. Edward? Oh, your audio is...
You're on mute, Edward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Eduardo Rodríguez. I'm one of the Deputy District Directors for District 18 LULAC here in Houston. We cover about 25 different counties, so it's very important for us to be able to work with the different politicians and the different leadership throughout those 25 counties. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about the criminal system here in Harris County. We're hoping to kind of get a little information as to what happened when you get arrested, what goes on in the courts. Everybody knows when you're on the street, you get arrested, you go to jail, you get a bond, and what have you. But there's very little information, especially on the street. What happens inside the courtroom? What does the court expect of us? What does the judge expect of us? You know, how should we when we're in the courtrooms, how should we address the court? How should we be dressed? So there's a lot of little things like that you know we hope to kind of shed some light on, and it's a very, very important thing here in Harris County. Somewhere in the vicinity of about 60 to 65% of the people, some way or another, will be in front of a court, even if it's traffic court, here in Harris County in their lifetime. So it's important.
Yes. So first of all, we want to thank you for being here with us. It means a lot for us and for the community, and we want to thank you for that. And we know your time is really valuable and want to really get a lot of information. Okay, so like I was saying, I have that question that my clients have a lot of the times. So they say, if my husband gets arrested, a lot of times the females that ask that, or for their kids, right? Where would they go? So if they get arrested for a traffic, I don't know how would they get arrested for traffic, maybe in a crash, in an accident or something. Well, also a lot of them don't have documents, so they get arrested and they get taken somewhere and they don't know where to look for information.
Well, what I would do is, well, thank you. I want to thank you, Maria and Eduardo and Raimundo, for allowing me to come on the Community Advisors RSR Facebook Live presentation this evening. Once again, my name is Raúl Rodríguez. I am the presiding judge of Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 13. And to answer your question, Maria, it depends. If someone gets arrested, it depends on whether they get arrested, first of all, in Harris County, because each county has their own independent jail system and court system. It also depends upon if someone gets arrested from what agency, like, for example, the Houston Police Department or Pasadena Police Department, the Harris County Sheriff's Department, because some of these agencies also have their own jails. And of course, it also depends upon what the person was arrested for. But what I would do is I would probably start off by contacting the Harris County Jail. I don't know personally the number, but I'm sure they could look it up. But if they can contact the Harris County Jail and give them a person their name and date of birth, that's probably where I would start off if someone is trying to look for someone that got arrested. And that's assuming, of course, that they did get arrested in Harris County. If someone got arrested, like for example, in Galveston, then I would contact the Galveston County Sheriff's Jail, the Harris County Jail, the Galveston County Jail. So it just depends. A lot of times, a lot of these small little municipalities like City Houston, well, not City Houston's big, but like Pasadena, they have their own jail. So it also depends if they get arrested, like for example, on a traffic or for warrants of a traffic. They may go directly to the city jail, either the City Houston jail or the Pasadena jail or Bel Air or Deer Park. So it's kind of hard to answer that question, but I would definitely start off with contacting the Harris County Jail and kind of just take it from there.
Okay, so just so to clarify this, Conroe is not part of Harris County. I know there's the population, the Hispanic population in Conroe is growing big. It's getting bigger as we speak, I guess. And a lot of people think that Conroe belongs to Harris County, which is not. It's Montgomery County. So in that case, and I want to clarify, in that case, it's not Harris County. You're not going to find the person in the Harris County or the city of Houston. You must contact Montgomery County.
That is correct. Conroe is in Montgomery County, and they would have to contact the Montgomery County Jail, or if it's in Conroe, the Conroe Police Department to kind of get information. So that is correct. You are right there.
Same thing with Galveston. How about Katy? Is Katy Harris County?
Some parts of Katy is Harris County, and some parts of Katy is Fort Bend County. So it depends on those. Katy is kind of unusual because Katy is located in 2 different counties. So I couldn't tell you. I'll probably just contact both counties, either Harris or Fort Bend, and kind of just take it from there.
Okay, do you know, I know there's over here online something called Find Someone in Jail link, which is part of the Harris County SO. So after the person is arrested, how soon can they find that person in the system?
It usually takes several hours. So say, for example, someone gets arrested in Houston for committing like either a misdemeanor or a felony, and it's 7 o'clock. And usually they will be transported to Harris County directly. And it takes 4 to 6 hours, I would say, for them to be processed in, or they will probably be found online. So it does take a little while. So people would have to be patient once they start looking, because the county's not gonna put anything online until they are actually booked in. And what that means is that they're photographed and their fingerprints are taken and their information is taken, name and address and date of birth and those kind of things before it shows up in any website, or if you contact the Harris County Jail before they can give you any information.
4 to 6 hours. Okay, so is there a time where it's really crowded? Like, I know if that's a real question or not, but weekends, maybe weekend, 4th of July, something like that, where it would take more than 1 day, probably 12 hours.
Yeah, it will take time. It should be within a 24-hour period that they would know. But yes, weekends are more busier at the jail than during the week. Holidays are definitely more busier at the jail than other days of the week. So usually Monday through Thursdays is not as busy as Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays.
Okay. So my question was because there was this bail bond company that would, there's this, how would I say it? This rumor in the community that if you don't have documents and you end up in jail, you're going to be deported right away. So you have to hurry up and get the person out of jail. So there was this bail bond company that was telling them that they could get the person out of there in 3 hours after they were arrested, which is, if you say that it's not even possible because it's 4 to 6 hours, then that would not be true, correct? There's no way that they have a power inside where they can get them out. That's
Experience has been that nobody can be released from jail until they are booked into the jail, which means that they are actually taken in, their information is given, the name, date of birth, their photograph, fingerprints, and things like that. Once they are definitely processed, after that time, then it's possible for someone to be released from jail either by bonding them out, or in Harris County, if they're charged with a small misdemeanor offense, they may be released on their own personal recognizance. It's called a personal bond. And so they may be released just on their word that they will promise to return back to court. In case, they don't need a bondsman. Now, of course, there are those occasions that I've experienced where people, especially Latinos that do not have documents, that as they're being processed and names taken down and things like that, sometimes they will put a hold on them from Homeland Security, which is ICE. And if they are put a hold, then usually they will not be able to be released from jail. And they're kind of, they'll have to stay there until immigration releases their hold. So it just depends. It's kind of hard to know.
Judge, a question for that. Whenever people get arrested, what forms of ID are acceptable to present? I guess if a police officer asks for a form of ID, or someone in the jail system, someone who works in the jail, or a judge or a person in the government, what type of forms of ID are acceptable?
In Harris County, any type of form of ID is acceptable. Either a driver's license, an ID card, a passport, almost anything that has your name and picture is an acceptable form of ID. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, you have to have a driver's license, for example. So usually any form with a picture and name will be accepted as a form of ID.
All right, awesome. And in Harris County, do we have interpreters inside the courts for people who doesn't speak English? Are there interpreters who know Spanish and translate it into English?
Yes, the county is required to have interpreters to be able to interpret, and this is not just for Spanish, for any language. Any non-English speaking individual, there will be interpreters available to interpret at whatever language that person speaks. So if it's in Spanish, there'll be interpreters that will speak, translate from English to Spanish. If there's people that are from other parts of the world, French, Hebrew, we've had people that come from, for example, in some of the African countries that speak Swahili or other types of languages. The county has to make an interpreter available to interpret from English into that language. But yes, they are interpreters available, and that's something that the county has to provide.
All right. One of the questions that people had asked me is, do undocumented people who are here illegally, do they have the same rights inside the courts as other as American citizens? Do they have the same rights?
Yes, the United States Constitution does not differentiate someone that has, for example, legal status or a U.S. citizen from someone that is not. We treat everybody equally, regardless of your immigration status. So each person by law will be treated equally, and they do have rights if someone comes to a criminal court the same as anybody else. So they're not going to be treated differently from anybody else.
Okay. So is a lawyer always required to go to court with you?
No, highly recommended. not necessarily required, but I would recommend, I would highly recommend that someone have an attorney represent a person who does have a case, a criminal case that someone is being charged with.
And if they don't have money to hire a lawyer, then the court has one for them, correct?
Yes, the court can appoint an individual, a lawyer, to represent that individual if the court finds that that person is indigent, meaning that they do not have the money, they're not working, they're poor. As long as they do not have the financial means to hire a lawyer, a person may qualify for an attorney, and oftentimes the court will appoint an attorney to represent that person.
And how a person can be determined indigent? I'm sorry.
It depends. Two ways. One way is when they come and are initially arrested. Sometimes this person may see a judge at the jail called the magistrate, and at that time a magistrate may determine if someone is indigent or not. Or if a person comes to court and is saying that I'm indigent, then what I would do in Court 13, we require that person fill out what's called a financial information sheet, which will determine whether or not a person does not have the funds to hire a lawyer and qualifies for a court-appointed lawyer. So that's how it's done.
I'd like to say something real quick, if I could. I want to go
Yes,
ahead
sir.
while we got a chance to recognize Judge Lori Chambers Gray. She just joined us, so thank you for coming on board as well.
Did, and thanks so much for having me. I'm hoping that you're able to hear me pretty well. I've got my earbuds on, so I can hear you all perfectly. It's great.
Hi, Judge Gray. How are you?
I'm well.
Good to see you,
thank
Judge Gray. Good.
Yes, yes, good to be here.
Well, we were talking about different aspects of what happens when somebody gets arrested, the IDs that are required by the state, the differences with regards to what if somebody gets arrested, where do they go? Do they go to a specific county? How do we locate those individuals? How bond and stuff works, and is it something that, you know, is applicable to everybody, or do bonds, are they set because of the individual is indigent, or if he has money, or is there a big risk, or what have you? And we have quite a few questions that we already went out and did, but feel free to join and jump in anywhere you so desire. I have one quick
Sure.
question, if I may.
Okay.
We were talking about the criminal aspect. I'd like to know, because this comes up a lot with people that we deal with, and that is they don't know when their court date is. Who determines what court date it is? Who resets it? And who ends up with that information? Is it the attorneys, the DAs? How do they get that information?
So, very good question. It's the court trial coordinator that actually sets all of the court settings. They'll coordinate with resets and so forth with the attorneys that are representing the person that's accused, but it's the trial coordinator in our court that really manages everything, from the settings to resets, the appointment of counsel. And so that position is very important. And a lot of what's happening today, a lot of people are a bit, well, I wouldn't say confused, but it's a bit more challenging, I think is the word, because of COVID, because what's happening now, some of the courts are meeting in person, some are meeting virtual. And so a lot of the resets and the communication will come through emails, as opposed to going to the courthouse, say after a person's been arrested and they need to go in and check in. So a lot of the information now is updated on the Harris County District Clerk's website, and it will give each court that's there are 22 felony district courts. And so if you click on the court that your case may be assigned to, you can find a wealth of information on the website as well.
Wow, that's good to know. Yeah, that's I didn't realize that. But how does that pertain specifically to the to the defendant, because I know sometimes they'll sit there and they'll say, hey, you know, my attorney hasn't told me anything. Is
Right.
the attorney the one who has that information for the defendant, or does he get that information from somebody else, like maybe pre-trial or somebody else?
So they'll get a number, and even if they don't have the case number, if they call and give the information of their date of birth and what have you, or email, because the email addresses are also there for the court coordinators, and send over the email to make sure they've made that initial contact with the court. If, let's say, they're in between, they haven't had an opportunity to hire counsel or get counsel appointed. It's just real important to go ahead and reach out, because they will either get a phone call or they'll get an email back. And so that they can assure that if they're in that position, that they can find out what date that they're scheduled to go back into court. And then if they've had an opportunity or the resources to hire an attorney, then their counsel will take care of all of that for them.
If I
And
may
that-
add, Judge, I'm sorry, if I may add, usually what happens when someone is first arrested, and if they do come to the county and are booked in and processed and formal charges are done, if that person is released from jail, either by a personal bond or a bondsman, they should receive paperwork when they are released that tells them when their court date is, their first court date is. And it'll tell them a date, the time, and the court number for the first time as they're released. And then once they are released, then it's that person's responsibility to make arrangements to either come to court or contact the court or hire an attorney to represent them, for that court date. Then after they do have their court date, if they do come to court, then their case can be rescheduled and they should get paperwork. Once again, if they come in person, if they have a lawyer, the lawyer will usually have that information as to the next court date. So that's kind of how it works when they first get arrested.
Let me jump in real quick again, please, if I may. Judge Gray, I forgot to mention the fact that we have Judge Raúl Rodríguez, and that's who was just speaking. I know that you can't see us because you're on the phone, but so luckily we were really fortunate today to have two very great.
That's right.
examples.
Well,
Thank
good to
you.
be here be here with Judge Rodríguez. This is awesome. We rarely get to see each other these days.
We don't.
Everything is so compartmentalized with the COVID. But yeah, that is true. But I've noticed though, and you're right about that, Judge, that they should get that court date. But some of the courts I know on my floor, they're not actually there. And so we've, seen them trying to find out information because everything may have been online. And a lot of times people will feel that there's no one there. But even if that is the case, if they email, if anyone's listening and they go to that website and find that trial coordinator email address, that coordinator will email you back if you have any questions, because they're actually there making sure to bridge the gap if someone is confused about anything in terms of settings, where the courts are located, and so forth.
And just to verify this in my mind, there is no cost to reschedule or email the trial coordinator. That's free, correct?
That's correct. That's right. Good question, but yes, there isn't.
That is correct.
I know, because sometimes our Latino community just pays for a lot of things that are free, just because we don't know. Somebody makes money out of that. So.
Good question.
So if somebody misses that court date, are they automatically going to jail? If they show up, there's a warrant for them. What happens if they don't show up?
And so it's a case by case basis. I'll just go ahead and say, but the communication as far as in our court, the 262nd District Court, if we get information that, you know, this person maybe got the date confused or what have you, or it's not an immediate bond revocation or a forfeiture of a bond. There may be some opportunity based on whichever court to quickly update the court what may have happened. And if the bond has been revoked and the person, say, was in the hospital, and we've seen it all, they're, you know, suffering, cannot get in the building because they cannot pass the the temperature check or exposure to COVID. The main thing is, yeah, let them know, because the court is not there to try to just revoke your bonds. They just need to be able to give each case the respect that it deserves, and a next court date if that is the case. But that communication is key, even if it's after the fact.
And I'd like to say that I agree with Judge Gray. Normally, if someone does miss their court date, like for example, in the county criminal courts, that doesn't necessarily mean that that person has a warrant for their arrest. What we usually do is try to reach out to that person, or if they have a lawyer, try to talk to the, communicate with the lawyer to let them know that this individual missed their court date, and give them the opportunity to come to court and try to take care of the case. So the goal for also the county criminal courts is not to issue a warrant for someone's arrest because they missed their court date, because there's different things that happen. You know, they maybe their car broke down, or they had an emergency, and we don't know. And so what we would like to do is just give that person an opportunity to present themselves and try to resolve it, and we will work with them.
Yes.
Well,
That's good. Well, you know, Judge Rodriguez, let me ask you another thing on that. I know that COVID-19 has been a big player in the decisions that you guys are making. Has that helped the community, or has that hurt the community? And by that I mean, you know, because before, when things were, I guess, normal, you know, if a guy showed up and didn't show up, there was a more aggressive system or policies in place to try to deal with that. Whereas now, it really is a day-to-day deal. We don't even know what the judge, the county judge is going to say, or the mayor is going to say. You know, today we're able to go out, tomorrow we may not be able to go out. So,
Well, it definitely has hurt the courts. One of the things, of course, that is hurt is that the county does not allow all these individuals that have cases in courts to come to court. We limit the number of people that are actually inside the courtroom. So those people that do come are usually those that do not have lawyers, or have cases that need to be taken care of, and their presence is required. Otherwise, what we usually do is we just reschedule those cases for another day. And unfortunately, because of COVID-19, it just kind of delays justice.
wow.
And especially those individuals that have cases that want to go to trial. It's just delayed. It just has delayed the system and slowed it down more. And now, for example, Court 13, I have many cases that cannot be resolved because they're set for trial, and we just cannot get to trial yet. So it's just difficult.
Yeah, Judge Gray, how does that affect the rights of the defendant? I mean, isn't there like something about speedy trial or something like that?
And there is, and that's a good question about the rights and so forth, speedy trial. But I just wanted to also add about what I've noticed about COVID, and that was an interesting question that you posed about, has it changed? Has it made things a little better? And in an odd sort of way, it really has, because what I've seen in the courts would have been more negotiations, because trials are just not, you're not able to have trials now. So each side is at least appearing to work harder to try to resolve a case. Is it a case that really needs to be tried? Is there a way that this case can be resolved in another way? So people are thinking about all of the various options. More treatment options are available, more beds are available, more medication is available for people who are dealing with mental health issues, and more testing is happening. And I'm seeing that because more psychologists and doctors are there at the jail conducting these tests and just assisting if a person is needing medications. But on the other side of that, all of the rights still apply. Speedy trial, the law still applies. Speedy trial still is applicable. Grand juries are still meeting in taking in the cases and what's happening. The only thing that's a bit delayed is jury trial. And we're expecting that, because they have prepared the NRG for, conducting the voir dires. Wow. And starting the trials, hopefully sometime in October. Jury trials are at least being scheduled now. So, but people need to know that COVID has changed a lot, but as far as the constitutionality of your rights, those are still very much in play. And they're challenging, you can challenge those. If, for example, something has happened and you have not been able to be heard. I mean, those are things that we'll probably see appeals and all kinds of things for many years to come.
Wow, I don't envy you guys in the slightest right now. I'm telling you, it's tough. It was tough being a cop and having your hands tied behind your back. But
Yeah.
You guys are having to work not just through that, but also the political pendulum that's swinging back and forth. It must be crazy right now.
Yes.
It is crazy.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But we're working through it. I mean, with the help of course our staff, and I know Judge Gray
Yes.
will probably say the same thing. We are working through it. We're going through it. We're not letting this pandemic stop us. All individuals' constitutional rights are still there. We're working to try to resolve cases as quickly as possible. So we're not standing still and not doing anything. We're working real hard to keep justice moving as best we can.
And
Absolutely.
Judge Rodriguez, let me ask you this. I know that you guys have an opportunity to kind of oversee this and see this from a big picture, because the judges are always like that. They always think big picture. When we finally get back to some normal deal, how quickly will the courts be able to go back into that pre-COVID, procedure pace?
Oh my God! Honestly, I think it's going to take a little while before we go back to what we had in pre-COVID days. We are conducting a lot of our court sessions through Zoom. For example, on a daily basis, I have lawyers that log in through Zoom like this, like we have to do right now, and we take care of those cases through Zoom. And I expect that Zoom is here to stay, and that we're going to have some part of our court system be handled through Zoom, and some parts through in person. Wow. And so I think it's going to be definitely different than it was pre-COVID. And honestly, I don't believe that we're going to go back to the pre-pandemic stage. So it's I don't know.
Wow. Judge Gray, same question for you, Judge Gray.
And I agree, because what has changed really in some ways, it's making things a little bit faster. You don't have to park. A lot of times it's expensive to go downtown. And when you can have litigants there who can zoom in and still go to work. So those are options I certainly want to leave on the table for people. Waivers of appearances, for example, on the first court setting. Things of this nature, which, you know, courts may not have seen in the past, but those things, COVID has improved and made courts think in a way that, you know, how can we continue to do what it is that we do, but then do it maybe in a different and a better way for everybody involved. So that's my thought.
Yes. Technology, I guess the positive thing that happened during COVID, you know, with this virus is that we, I guess courts were able to use technology, and that way they can connect more with the people, constituents. And one thing that I wanted to ask, one question that I had received from the public was, how do people dress? Because I know sometimes people say, I went to court and the judge got mad because, or the person who was there who works for the court said something because I was not dressed properly. And also that information can be useful because of, imagine a person being in a Zoom meeting, being here in a Zoom meeting, but not dressed professionally or dressed according to what the courts, you know.
When prior to me being a judge, I was a practicing attorney, and I had a private practice doing criminal defense. And what I would tell my clients when they would go to court is I tell them, dress like if you were going to church, if you're a church goer. And what that basically means is you don't usually go to church in a t-shirt and a shorts. You go in a shirt with a collar. You don't have to wear a suit, but dress nice. You don't have to be totally dressed up. But that's what I would tell them as a rule of thumb, is just kind of go like if you were going to go attend church. That's how I would suggest people go to court.
And yes, I agree with that as far as because it you know, it really is. I mean, we're relaxed, but it's a formal proceeding, and the clothing really is that way of reminding us that, you know, this is a formal proceeding. All of the rules of evidence apply, all of the laws apply, and so out of respect for each other, I mean, those are the ways that we mark in our society about what is important, what is special, what makes us different. And so the clothing is not to be in any way a way to try to make someone feel uncomfortable. It really is about the respect that we have for our system and for each other. And what I've noticed is sometimes when you have the technology, people may be, you know, wanting to sit outside or sit and have some shorts on and maybe a tank top. But you know, I want them to always, and I caution them that certainly in our court, we must be mindful that this is not a picnic break. We actually are here to make some real solid decisions. And you want to present in a way that you're telling that court, that body, that, hey, I'm here. This is important to me. This is serious to me, and I want, you know, to make sure that my matter is handled in a judicious and professional way.
We can't hear you, Edward.
Okay. I don't know if it sort of went. Well,
Edward
okay.
was.
Yeah.
It's me. I'm over here trying to do a couple of things, but that was a very important aspect of it. What other respect is afforded to the courts? I know that even inside the courtroom, and we were talking about the dress and the manner of dress and that, but I remember when I was in school, and you know, for for the sake of those young listeners out there, I am 60 years old, or just about. When I was growing up, we were told you had to say yes sir, no sir, and all that stuff. That was just every single day. But what do you address the judge when you're in court? Do you say your honor? Do you say judge? You don't call you guys by your first name. So how does that work out?
I want to hear Judge on that. I do have some thoughts about that.
I was taught, Edward, I was taught the same way, Eduardo. My parents always taught me to respect people and call them yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. And so I give the respect to those individuals that come before me exactly like my mama taught me. You, Eduardo, were to come to my court, I would address you as Mr. Rodríguez. Yes, sir, Mr. Rodríguez. How are you, sir? And so that's the way I would address you. And I would expect somewhat the same, addressing. You do not have to say yes, sir, or yes, your honor, but a simple yes or yes, sir, or yes, your honor would suffice. I have had occasions where some individuals have come before me and have basically said, yeah. Excuse me, Mr. Rodríguez. Excuse me, sir. What was that? Excuse me. I'd be very nice about it, but I would just basically tell them that that's not really the appropriate way to address the court. And I think they would get it. And most of the individuals that come before me do address me, accordingly, and I do respect that.
And so that I totally agree with what Judge Rodriguez just said about that. I remember when I started practicing law, if we want to start to aging ourselves 20 plus years ago. And I remember, having clients who were senior citizens and nobody was giving that respect. That's why I love what, Harris County has done, is putting in judges who are willing to give the respect that we expect. And, and so here's Joe over here, and he's, 80 years old, and I'm calling him Joe. And I just refused to do that. And I would be in the holdover. And I remembered people, had lost all of their dignity. The one thing that I would go in is and say, Mr. Doe, you are Mr. So-and-so. This is a respect that, like everyone has said, chimed in, that's the respect that my parents would expect of us. And, I have come to remind those who will come before the court, because it's not a happy day to come into a courthouse most days. And so, they could be angry, or they could be upset about the whole process, and everybody is, concerned about their own rights and what have you. But I will ask them the same respect, like Judge said, that I'm willing to give to them. And so if they're there, say they've, being allegedly of some heinous crime or what have you, and, to come before this bench and just go, yeah, this and yeah, that. And, I will remind them, you may see a female here, but you're talking to the state of Texas. I'm here on behalf of the state, and let's do this properly. It is yes, your honor, no, your honor, or yes, ma'am, whichever is going to be an appropriate formal answer, because I am not your friend. We are here to see and seek justice, and I'm willing to give that respect. And many times after it's explained that way, people will go, okay, well, I understand this, she's asking for the respect that she's willing to give. And that's the takeaway that I want people to, because it is not about a power trip or anything like that. It's a humbling thing to sit in judgment of anyone about anything, much less the criminal charges that, a judge and I have to see each and every day. And it's a matter of us being reminded again that, while the charges are could be serious, or could be life-changing. We're gonna show each other respect as we go through it. And you know, for the most part, I have not seen much of other than people willing to go, okay, I get it, you know, and will address in the way, you know, that's
Wow.
deemed appropriate. Mhm.
You're very inspiring. I really love your words. I hope to see you one day, but I would say not in court. I
Well,
would
you know
love to
what?
hear you and see you in person and say this, but you know, because you're
Yes.
very inspiring. Me as a female, I'm like, wow, like,
Yes.
I like to
Well,
hear that.
Well, you know what? And I tell people all the time, you all are most welcome. Anyone is welcome in that courtroom, because that courtroom belongs to the people. That's your courtroom, and we are there to serve. And so that's always an opportunity. And I appreciate those kind words. It always encourages me to continue on.
Oh no, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to hear you. I mean, it's amazing.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Yes.
So how does a person land in a criminal court? I know it's a simple question, but there's a lot of people who don't know there's a lot of people who do not understand how the court system works, and overall, I don't know how the criminal court works either. So can you explain some of that, Judge Rodriguez and Judge Norty? Right?
Okay.
Well, in my particular court, we handle misdemeanor cases, which is Class A and Class B. And there are 16 county criminal courts at law in Harris County. So when an individual is arrested and charged with a misdemeanor case, which of those 16 courts does that individual land? It's all done electronic. It's kind of like the lotto. It's a number that's chosen through a computer system, and it's all random. And honestly, I don't know how it's done, but the individual has the number that pops up randomly, and he's assigned to that court. So that's how it's done. In the olden days, they used to have the big ball machine like they do in bingo, and they would select the ball, and that's the court. That's how it did in the old days. And we're talking about a long time ago. But it's something similar, but now it's done electronically.
And that's right. And so it all depends upon what the charges are. Most crimes are going to be initiated either via, you know, phone calls to 911, and then the police are going to come out. And what will happen is, if that officer makes a determination to make an arrest, he'll call that charge into a assistant district attorney who is on duty 24/7. So our court systems are working 24/7 with people as far as representing the state, and the public defender's office representing those persons accused 24/7. And so if that charge comes in, and say it's a state jail felony, which could be possession of a controlled substance, all the way up to capital murder, in our instance, in my court, that's what will determine the level of offense. So will it be a misdemeanor case, or will it be a felony case? And then that process that Judge just explained will randomly put that case in one of the 22 criminal district courts for the felonies, or the 16 misdemeanor courts for the misdemeanors.
Hey, I got a quick question. How, because y'all made mention of something that was very important as well. I remember when I was out on the streets, and we would sometimes catch somebody, and they would have both misdemeanor and felony charges. How do you guys work that? Do you guys work together, or how does the courts coordinate all that stuff, or is that done through the DA?
So it's much the same way, because it's two different jurisdictions. And so that person accused of both felony and misdemeanor would have to get, if they're seeking counsel to be appointed, they would have counsel appointed on the misdemeanor and felony level. Or if they hire one person, one attorney would handle both. But it's We try to coordinate them on the same day, but that doesn't always happen. Judge, that's your experience too? Because
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I've had cases where individuals come to court that also has another pending case in a district court, and so we try to accommodate them and try to put them together. Although in county criminal courts, we usually will allow the felony courts to have priority because those cases are a little bit more serious than the.
Right.
So we would allow they would have priority over the felony cases versus the misdemeanor case.
So is there a rule where if you have 2 or 3 misdemeanors, it becomes a felony or something like that? Can they upgrade to be a felony?
There are certain offenses that if an individual has previous convictions for misdemeanors can become a felony. And I'll just give you an example. I'll give you an example of driving while intoxicated, DWI. If someone gets arrested for the first time for driving while intoxicated, that's usually a misdemeanor, Class B misdemeanor. If they get arrested again, second time, and they have a prior conviction for driving while intoxicated, it's still a misdemeanor, but it becomes a Class B misdemeanor. If someone gets arrested for the third time for driving while intoxicated and has 2 previous driving while intoxicated conviction, that third time is a felony. So yes, it's a way for that to be a felony case if he had 2 prior convictions. So that's just one example. So there are certain felony cases that become felonies because they had some prior cases beforehand.
So what is the biggest difference now that you mentioned this was one of my questions? What's the difference between a DWI and a DUI?
Actually, they're basically the same thing. In Harris County, well, actually the state of Texas, in the state of Texas, it's known as driving while intoxicated. And DUI is basically the same thing. It's just in Harris County, the formal charge is driving while intoxicated, but really it's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So intoxicated could be anything, correct?
Yes, it could be anything.
Drug.
It could be alcohol. It could be a drug like marijuana or a Xanax, or even a prescription medication can cause someone to be impaired. And so intoxication doesn't necessarily mean by just drinking alcohol. It's any type of substance that somebody takes that causes somebody to be impaired. And at the time that they're impaired, they're driving. So they're driving while intoxicated.
Okay. So what can you say about probation, since you say that all the trials were changed in a way? What about probation? How that changed due to COVID?
That's a good question. So probation, a lot of people are working a lot now because what is happening is cases will continue to come in, probably more, as in our court, you're seeing more people being placed on probation, and they're still able to report, but a lot of the things that they were able to do in the past are a little bit different. So for example, if they had to take a class like anger management as a condition of probation, or if they're needing to get some sort of drug treatment, it's really important for them to be able to connect now via the internet, or like we're doing now on Zoom, because a lot of the counseling, a lot of the classes are now online. So that's making it a little difficult for some people who may not have the ability to have that technology. But the key to that, what we're saying is, in our court, if they don't have the technology, to try to work around it, and either to try to make sure that they can either find some shared way in order to get to the technology, or to try to find a way to get to some inpatient inpatient or in classroom type settings that now they're becoming more and more available. But it's been a struggle because, you know, all of that was all in person, and that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, the people nowadays that are placed on probation, it used to be before COVID, they would report to a probation office and report to a probation officer. But now, because of the pandemic, the probation department does not want these individuals to come and report in person. So they're reporting either through Zoom or through Skype or through telephone. And they're trying to get away from having all these individuals come to the probation department and report, because there could be quite a bit of them, and they don't want that crowd to be there in an office all crowded. So it's changed, and there's a lot of programs that unfortunately have been affected because of COVID. Like, for example, community service. There's some that are no longer available because of COVID. So they would have to do other things like online programs. So it's definitely changed.
So one question I had from one of my clients was, probation restricts the area where you're supposed to live, like let's say Harris County, right? Okay, this lady told me the husband couldn't hold a job because jobs were outside the Harris County. Is that something that's common with probation if you're arrested in the Harris County, or it's just something from that case particular?
So that's another great question, because and it's a court by court situation, but certainly everybody is wanting a person to if they have employment, the whole idea is to help them either find employment or keep employment that they have. And so it's just a matter of what the charges are, and communicating to that court or that probation's officer that, you know, the job that they have is out of Harris County, and we allow that routinely, even out of state. If, you know, people having job opportunities or gaining them while being on probation, and they can show that they have, you know, an offer letter or proof that they are working, we're going to allow them to do that.
And I agree with Judge Gray. We're in the county criminal courts at law, we're the same way. We're not going to prohibit someone from not going to work outside the county because that person's on probation. Although they technically, we do want them to stay within certain boundaries. If someone is on probation in Harris County, they're usually restricted to live in Harris County. But if they do have a job elsewhere, as long as they provide proof of that job, then by all means, they have our permission to go travel and work outside of the county. We want them to be productive and to be able to be successful on probation.
Or like our Latino community, you know, a lot of them go to Mexico for holidays or whatever. If you're in probation, you cannot leave the country. Am I right, or that's wrong?
No, that's not true. In county court, I routinely have individuals that are asking for permission to travel outside of the county, for example, from Mexico for holidays, and I will give them permission, but they also will have to show that they are current, that they're doing what they're supposed to do on probation. So if they're completing the conditions that were given to them on probation, then I will give them permission to travel. But if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then it'll be difficult for me to give them permission to travel.
Okay. So
And I agree as well. And so I'm sorry, we give grant permission for them to travel to Mexico or out of the country, depending again upon the charges and the circumstances, but certainly to be able to, you know, continue to do what they would normally do as a family or setting. That's the main goal, because the motivation to get people to see that the probation is not punishment. It's a way to try to set the record straight, so to speak, and give them an opportunity to demonstrate that whatever it is that they're trying to get from it, and then move on with their life.
Well, that's a beautiful way to describe it. It makes sense.
So our guests, we always allow them, since our, it's an hour and 15 minutes or Zoom meeting, we always allow them to, to say something to the public that they want to say. Maybe they want to tell, hey, follow the COVID-19, CDC guidelines, or, do the census. So Judge Rodríguez, Judge Lori Gray.
Yeah.
Well, Judge Gray, you may begin, Judge Gray.
Okay, all right. Well, I want to encourage people to continue to ask the questions, to continue to explore all of the things, the ways in which the court system can do a better job. And I always ask the question, even after juries will have met. Did we do what we were going to do? Did we have the food? I mean, everything is on the table. And the criminal justice system is made up of people who are from the community, in position to serve the community. So I want to continue to empower the community to have discussions like this, to ask the questions, to visit the courts, because those courts, those seats belong to the people. And it's your opportunity to learn as much as you can, because you never know. You may have desires to become lawyers or judges. And I hope that is the case. Or to touch the system and just to be able to give somebody some comforting words so that they can understand what's going to happen. It's a big system. It's a big machine. It's a lot of moving parts, but it's certainly one worth knowing about and utilizing it to the best of your ability. And so I will close with that. The 262nd Criminal District Court, we're located on the 15th floor of the Criminal Justice Center in Harris County. And we start at 9:30 in the morning, and depending on the capacity, those who are wanting to see what it looks like now, you're certainly welcome to do so.
And I will agree with Judge Gray. The position that I hold is an elected position, and I am the presiding judge of Harris County Criminal Court at Law Number 13, but that is not my court. That court belongs to the citizens of Harris County. That is their court. I just happen to be temporarily, presiding over that. And so the court belongs to the citizens of Harris County. And so if the citizens of Harris County would like for the court to have suggestions as to what we can do to improve, I would definitely be open to hear from that. We are here not to deny people's rights. It is a criminal court, and there's certain things that happen that people don't like, but we're not here to deny people the right to be heard. We're here to make sure that justice is served as to the best of our ability. And I do reach out to the community and ask them, are there things that you would like to hear, you'd like to see, any improvement that you would like for the courts to do? And if we can accommodate those requests, we definitely will do so. So, I'm here as an elected official because my constituents are the citizens of Harris County, and I want to represent them to the best of my ability. And so I welcome their input for sure.
Well, thank you very much. Those are great words.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you to both of the judges for providing information and for joining us today, this evening. And thank you, everyone, once again. Have a great evening.
Thank you
Okay,
very
have a
much.
good evening,
Thank you very
everybody.
much.